Recently, Solana has crept up the coin market cap rankings and now sits in the top 10 cryptocurrencies by market cap. So, what is Solana? Solana is an open source blockchain that is aimed at solving scalability through speed. It does this by operating on a proof of history model, which is its main unique differentiator, and we'll actually talk about that and some other key differences that Solana has compared to other popular networks such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano. At the end of the video, we'll also discuss some factors to consider if you're thinking about investing in Solana. Now, this video is not meant to be financial advice, but is purely educational in nature, so I do hope that this video helps aid you in your overall research if you're thinking about investing in Solana. Before we start, we actually need to update our sub jar. Hell yes. So I shout out a comment every time we get 500 subs, and I put $20 in this jar. So actually, since we got 5,000 subs since the last time I did this, that's going to be $200 and 10 comments into this jar right away. So thank you to all those on the screen for commenting and subscribing. This jar is currently sitting at $520, and when it reaches 1,000, you guys get to choose how that money gets invested. So if you do end up finding this content helpful, please subscribe, smash the like button. It's free and you can always change your mind, and maybe you'll even get a shout out. Solana was founded in late 2017 when founder Anatoly Yakovenko published a white paper detailing a new timekeeping technique called proof of history. His thesis was that in blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum, the biggest limitation to scalability was that transactions per second are too low. That's mainly due to the time required to order transactions in the right way. So he came up with a concept called proof of history. This is a method in which the blockchain transactions are actually time-stamped. So you see, one of the problems that blockchain technology faces is agreement on time. For example, on the Bitcoin network, everyone isn't really in sync with each other to the exact time, and this could actually cause inefficiencies in the processing of transactions on the network due to the disagreement in the order of transactions. In the past, centralized organizations like Google, for example, have solved for this issue in their own databases by synchronizing atomic clocks between all of their data centers. But that requires employees to maintain it, which takes labor, and also Google is a centralized organization, so that wouldn't really work for a decentralized blockchain network. With proof of history, each block on the Solana network can be time-stamped. The way it works is with something called the verifiable delay function, which adds an input to each SHA-256 record. Now that's a mouthful, but basically SHA-256 stands for Secure Hashing Algorithm 256. It's the same algorithm backbone used in blockchain technologies like Bitcoin, and it's utilized in order to keep data secured and encrypted. Hashing, according to Investopedia.com, requires processing the data from a block through a mathematical function, which results in an output of a fixed length. So proof of history basically adds an input to this hashing function by adding a timestamp signature, and that timestamp signature is recognized by everyone within the Solana network. That means everyone on the network is working in sync and in agreement with this decentralized clock. Now, this is one of the high-level differentiators of Solana compared to other networks. Because it uses proof of history, this means that nodes can create the next block without having to coordinate with the entire network first, because they can trust the timestamp and ordering of the messages that they've received. That comes directly from the Solana website. This ensures that the number of transactions that Solana can actually handle per second are incredibly high. Solana currently makes a new block every 400 milliseconds, which is 0.4 seconds. So that means every second, 2.5 blocks are created by the Solana blockchain. Solana can handle 50,000 transactions per second with a potential capability of reaching up to 700,000 per second, but currently that's limited due to hardware. For context, Bitcoin is right around 4 to 4.5 transactions per second, and Ethereum runs at around 20 transactions per second. Regarding the cost per transaction, Solana's website shows that each transaction costs $0.00025, and here's this handy chart to show you how much cheaper it is compared to Ethereum. For those of you who don't know, which also included myself before this research, the transaction fees are set based on how many transactions can take place per second. If blocks are made super frequently and tons of transactions can fit into them, the competition to get a spot in those blocks is going to be lower, thus resulting in lower transaction fees. So scalability means also less fees are going to be needed. Okay, so in terms of the SOL token, currently there are 293 million in circulating supply, and the token is used for staking and also paying for transaction fees. The max supply is capped at around 500 million tokens, and Solana can be staked to earn staking rewards, much like other proof-of-stake cryptocurrency models and networks like Cardano.
But Humphrey, isn't Solana a proof of history network?
Well, yes and no. In terms of Solana's consensus mechanism, it's a proof of stake network. A consensus is just the backbone of any blockchain, and it's how the nodes on the blockchain verify transactions. So while Solana uses proof of history to make transaction speeds faster, it simply is there to aid and improve the performance of Solana's proof of stake consensus mechanism. If you want to learn more about what proof of stake is, watch my video on Cardano, where we do go into the different difference between proof of work, which is what Bitcoin is on, versus proof of stake, which is what Cardano and Ethereum 2.0 are on. All right, so back to the tokenomics. The initial coin breakdown looked like the following. 37% went to initial investors, 38% were pre-mined rewards, and the remaining 25% went to the founders. According to the Solana site, Solana's 3 launch private sales all came with a 9-month lockup after the network was launched. The tokens issued in these sales should become liquid around January 7th, 2021. Now, it's already been a while since January 7th, 2021, and even with lockup periods ending for the token, we haven't seen the price fluctuate or tank like crazy in the past. This may be due to those stakeholders really believing in Solana, or maybe the rewards are just really great when it comes to staking. Another differentiating factor of Solana is that the validators on the network have little to no barrier to entry. A validator, if you'll remember, is someone who is responsible for verifying transactions on a blockchain. There are usually token rewards for being a validator and helping the blockchain network verify transactions. Now, on some networks, the barrier to entry to becoming a validator is actually quite high. For example, on Ethereum, you'll need to stake 32 Ethereum to become a solo validator, which at the time of this recording is well worth over $100,000 in Ethereum. Now, for Solana, there's no minimum required to become a validator. However, the type of computer you would need to become a validator is basically like a supercomputer. If you read the requirements on the Solana website, you can see that you would need 128 gigs of RAM, and that's extremely expensive, and at least 12 cores of a CPU. So you would basically need a server-like hardware to become a validator. It doesn't exactly mean everyone can be one. For context, my gaming PC, which costs around $5,000, has 64 gigs of RAM and 10 cores in it, and all I do is play World of Warcraft on it. The point is that while there is no minimum, the type of computer you're gonna need is gonna be definitely super pricey, so that's like a natural barrier to entry. The network currently has around 1,000 validator nodes, but most of them are owned by the development team themselves. So because of this fact, the decentralization piece of Solana is sometimes called into question. But now let's talk about compatibility. So Solana is like Ethereum in that you can actually create decentralized apps on the network. You can create smart contract apps, and that's probably why you see the price of Solana token rising lately. It's due to the fact that the derivatives platform FTX announced that Solana would be integrated into their NFT marketplace. In terms of compatibility with other networks, Solana uses the Rust programming language versus other platforms like Ethereum use Solidity. Because of that fact, Solana isn't super compatible with other Ethereum apps. There is, however, a new bridge called the Wormhole that is looking to solve some compatibility issues between Ethereum and Solana specifically. Solana is also looking to bring other innovations onto their blockchain, including the full list right here that I'll bring up on the screen. Now, these get a little too technical for the scope of this video, but if you'd like to read about all their other innovations, I'll leave a link in the description below. The main important innovation that most people like to focus on is proof of history, which we've already covered at length today. So is Solana a great investment? What should you consider before thinking about investing? Number one, the max supply piece of Solana is an attractive part to investing into it, in my opinion, as that means more Solana just can't be printed out of thin air. That should keep the value of the coin in check. Number two, I think if you want to bet on another smart contract platform besides Ethereum and Cardano, it could be good to diversify a little bit, and Solana seems like a natural pick because of its really fast transaction speeds. Number three, if you believe that proof of history is the ultimate solver for the inefficiencies in the blockchain, this could actually be an investing play where you invest into that technology specifically. Fourth, you should really consider the market right now. It's really been surging lately, and Solana is close to all-time highs. Do you expect it to stay this high, go higher, or do you just believe in this for the long term? Now, I personally don't own any Solana, although I am interested in the blockchain itself. If you are investing in speculative cryptocurrencies, I personally would not be doing it with my entire investment portfolio. I like to limit my speculative plays like this one to less than 10% of my overall portfolio. And speaking of, if you do want to see what I invest in, you can check that out in my Patreon, as you can see my full portfolio there. This video is purely made for educational purposes, and I do hope that this video was helpful for you in breaking down Solana. If you have other topics that you would like me to simply explain, please let me know in the comments. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel for more future videos from me, and also tick the notification bell so that you can get notified whenever I drop a new video. If you'd like $10 worth of free Bitcoin or to get a free stock valued up to $200 with Robinhood, use the links in my description below. Lastly, thanks to everybody in my Patreon that's consistently supporting me. I appreciate it. It's because of you guys that I can do this without taking on too many sponsorships on the channel. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.